Hello from the historic Belmont Iron Furnace in Bullitt County, Kentucky. Built in 1844, perhaps by John H. Baker, this impressive but time-worn stone and brick structure stood 33 feet tall in its day. It is said that there were as many as 3 such furnaces in Bullitt County. This Belmont furnace is the most intact. The foundation of another one, known as the Salt River Iron Furnace, still exists near the southern end of Beech Grove Road. Iron smelting, the process of extracting iron from iron ore rock, has been used in some form around the world since around 2500 BC. The basic process is simple. Crushed iron ore, stone, and limestone. Heat that at an intense heat until hot enough that the iron melts and separates from the native rock. The limestone acts as a flux to facilitate the process. Have you noticed the rusty color of much of the rock in our area? It is rust. Some ore is better than others, but iron is fairly prevalent in this area. The trick of the process is to get the ore hot enough to melt. The Belmont furnace used air-blasted charcoal for the heat source. Workers hauled the ore and limestone, broken up by hand and hammers, to the top of the furnace via a ramp from the hillside, which is really just a huge cauldron called a bosch, B-O-S-H, lined with fire brick inside and large stone on the outside with an insulating air gap between. In a process more refined than described here, charcoal is tossed in first and fired hot, its fire heating the rock thrown on top. But a simple charcoal fire is not hot enough to melt metal and stone. At first, a huge bellows, much like the small hand ones you might have seen to help fireplace fires start, was used to pump in extra air to make the fire even hotter. Once everything gets hot enough, the heavy molten iron melts out of the rock and settles to the bottom of the cauldron. A glassy slag, consisting of the remainder of the ore, levels out on above that, and a relatively light porous ash floats on top of that. Just imagine this furnace in operation. Men working everywhere, smoke and ash belching from the top and from the steam engine. In 6 months of 1857, the Belmont furnace produced 1,140 tons of pig iron. The Belmont furnace was repaired and restarted in 1853 after a brief halt to operations, but closed again by the time of the Civil War in 1861. Records from then tell us that a company of Union soldiers were based at the Belmont furnace, described at the time as, quote, a deserted iron-producing village whose vacant workmen's cottages afforded ample shelter for the soldiers based there to guard the railroad bridge about 3/4 of a mile away. Production of iron in the area ended primarily because of depletion of readily accessible ore, by the coming of railroads that allowed better quality iron to be more easily transported from better sources, and a general wearing out of the land by pollution and the exhaustion of all nearby forests for the wood. Interestingly, in later years, Isaac Bernheim purchased 15,000 acres of that damaged land and renewed it as what is now the renowned Bernheim Forest and Arboretum. In 2024, Bullitt County Fiscal Court joined with furnace owner Dr. Greg Coons to develop a new county park, dedicated to preserving this historic Belmont Iron Furnace structure while creating a new place for people to enjoy nature and history. Dr. Greg Coons and his family deserve very high praise for protecting this furnace since way back in 1950 when his aunt and uncle first purchased the land. That's over 75 years. Thanks also to Dr. Coons' land caretakers, Larry Kitterman and Larry Jr., for being such excellent custodians and protectors of the furnace for so many years.